NVJ.
Hello out there, and welcome to episode 149 of the Michael vs. Jason Horrorcast, where we love to bicker, argue, and debate all things horror, mainly one movie chosen by the Devil's Wheel at the end of each episode, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And we've only had 3 Devil's Wheel spins so far, and Jason has won all 3 of them. So stay tuned for that as well to see if anybody's going to break the streak, because I think I speak for everybody. It's time. It's time that something else changes here. But Jason chose a movie this week. Very, if you're a fan of the Lovecraft, this is extremely Lovecraftian, if you will. Some would say a romance. But the movie we are talking about is from 2014. Jason in 2014. I'm with you. Didn't realize that could happen. But the movie is Moorhead and Benson's Spring. And even though it's almost a decade old, maybe you haven't watched it. And if you're a first-time listener of the podcast, we are going to spoil the absolute shit out of it. So this is your only warning before we get into the episode and rate, review, all that good stuff. We will ruin the movie for you. So as always, I'm your host, Mike. And, there's 2 other members that like to talk on this podcast. What's up, Jason and Kirk? What's going on, guys?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
So back to weeks, I can use this. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
That's another Italian movie. Come on.
It is Italiano. Italiano. If you're not already craving breadsticks, we're going to get to that here very shortly. But before we do, how we always like to start every episode is with...
All right, that sound means it's Pardon the Terror time. And this week, my friends, it is the end of January, so we're doing the best of what we watched. So the good, the bad, the ugly, let's mostly focus on the good. But what did we watch this last month? What are the good horror movies we found? And maybe we have some of the bad ones. We are in January, so there's probably a few duds out there. But Jason, give us a few movies you saw this week.
All right, so a couple movies I watched. So I found this one on Shudder. I've actually been waiting for this to come out now. I've been reading about it for a couple of months. I'm pretty sure Mike has this on there as well. So we'll probably be talking about this together. Destroy All Neighbors.
Yes.
Yes, I figured.
I thought actually you were going in a different direction. But yes, I did watch this one as well. So.
Nope. Yeah. Watched Destroy All Neighbors a couple weeks ago. I've been real excited about it. It has Alex Winter in this, who was from Bill and Ted fame and Lost Boys back in the day. But
he's in it, but he's in it for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. He's not in it that much.
He plays the dude that gets his head cut off. He's the Russian guy.
Oh, is he that guy? I thought he was. He's the detective.
Yeah, he plays both parts.
Oh well, then never mind.
I saw the cover art for this. I didn't actually go and watch it yet, but I definitely saw the cover art when flipping last
yeah,
night.
he's the main neighbor.
Okay, well, never mind then.
Yeah, but anyway, so basically, it's this couple that lives in this apartment. I think he's like some kind of musician or something, trying to put things together. This weird dude just moves in next door, completely is loud, obnoxious, so he basically goes over there, accidentally kills him, and chaos completely ensues in this movie. And all the neighbors just they come back to life, and they're just haunting this guy. Believe it or not, it's actually kind of fun. I actually enjoyed it. I'd probably rate it maybe more like 5.5, though. I'm not going to go any higher than that, but it's definitely a fun watch. I thought the acting in it was kind of lame, but it's not bad for what you're going to get from a Shudder movie.
It's made to be like a goofy style, movie. It's funny. I have it as a 5. So we're in the same. I wanted it to be better. It's definitely humorous at points. It's goofy violence. It's never like anything, but that's okay. Like there's a spot for that in the horror community as well. But that's a 5. It's average. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the only other one I'll talk about. So actually, I went back to a movie that we podcasted a year ago, something that I actually was not a big fan of, but I wanted to kind of open up my mind a little bit more, give it another watch. But I watched Christmas, Bloody Christmas, Mike. And the reason why I say Mike is because I gave you a lot of hell on this movie last year. And I mean a lot of fucking hell. And I'm going to tell you what, after watching it the second time and like really just watching it and not having to take notes and not have to, really dissect it, I fucking loved it this time around. I think I gave it like a
You
4.5.
hated it.
I hated
I
it.
think you were like a 3 or a 4. And
No,
ex-member of the
I have
podcast,
it.
Bill and I, we really enjoyed it.
I was a
So-
4.5 if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
So if you want to go back and listen to that was season 2, episode 44,
Yeah.
on December 21st, 2022.
yeah,
If you
I
wanna
might have been lower
see
than
how
that.
right and or wrong Jason was.
I was probably lower, but
It's one of the best Christmas movies in
I'll give it
a really long time.
I gave it a 6.5 the second time around because you know what, I did notice that I missed a lot, and I think I got one of the big things that I did, really dissect and disliked about that movie was the constant conversation. There's a lot of conversation in that movie, which we'll kind of get into a little bit with spring coming forward here too. But I think that kind of like threw me out a little bit, but like I really wasn't paying attention too much to what they were saying because I was just waiting for something to happen. This time I just kind of brought it all in, and it kind of took me for a much better ride this time. So I was very excited that I gave it a second chance. So this will definitely, I think, be like a yearly Christmas, bloody Christmas to watch. So that's all I'll talk about today, guys.
That's all you got. I only have a couple movies that I was able to make. So I watched Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. I watched that. I won't get into it too much. I say it's sub 5, so I don't want to deep dive into it. I'm not a real big found footage fan, and I thought it was comically kind of written, so it wasn't really my cup of tea. I know, Mike, you really, really like that movie. I was hoping for it. That's why I kicked it on. And then I also started to
Surprised
watch
you watched
the
it.
movie. Well, I got so far into it, and I was like, I want to see where they're going with this.
It's a good
And-
movie.
I'm just surprised you just put it on in general because you're not a found footage guy, and you also
I didn't know it
picked
was
up
found
with
footage.
you also picked up with number 4 in a series. Most people
Yeah,
don't start
yeah.
it.
But it said
number
Origins.
4.
It said Origins, so I feel like I was at the beginning. Right?
You missed a lot.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll go back and watch some more. But I just wanted to watch something, and I went to like the recommended, and it was like the third recommended movie. I put that on. The first recommended movie I put it on, actually, it was called The Ice Demon, and I made it about 20 minutes into it. I don't think it was the movie's fault. It just has a slow burn at the beginning, and I just really couldn't get into it. So I turned that off, and I turned on Hell House. The one thing you got to like about found footage type movies is you're like, fuck, I don't really like this movie, but I want to see where the conclusion is going. Like,
Mhm.
because that's the third part is really where you either makes or breaks a found footage movie. And it got into the third, and it was kind of predictable for me, but I can see why some like this above many other.
You know what Hell
found
House
footage
does very well though, and I thought this entry I think is the second best one. I think the first movie's the best, and
Yeah.
I thought this was number 2, and it's actually close. This could have been actually better than the first, but
If you were
um,
rating this, what would you give it?
I can't remember because I did rate it, and I
Mike,
mean,
you and I both gave it a 6.5.
yeah, I
if
would
I'm
say
not
a 6.5.
mistaken.
I mean,
6.5, okay.
I'm high on it.
We both were.
What they do though is they build tension very well and have good jump scare. Like it builds an intensity.
It wasn't
that
really a
does really
jump
well.
scare. They're more creepy
Yeah, but-
scares, like the bull rolling down the hallway. You're like, yeah, that's not good.
I
think
think they
it's- I
brought
think
in some
it's-
jump scares though.
I think it's more
Maybe a few.
I
There
think
was a
it's
few.
more of that feeling of dread and intensity that they just let it build and build. They do a great job.
What was
of
that
it.
clown?
Yeah, they don't turn the corner enough for you when you're wanting to look around the corner. So that's always got you kind of leaning in your couch, But other than that, so Ice Demon and Hell House LLC Origins is what I watched. I'm not a found footage guy. They've got to be like on the excellent side for me, and this probably is sub 5. Both, and I just really couldn't get into the Ice Demon. It was one of those recommended movies, and it was slow moving, so I clicked it over to something else. So I didn't make it through the whole thing. Mike, what kind of movies did you watch this?
I mean, we're
this
talking about the
January?
whole month here. So like
Well, January's a tough one because January's where movies go to die, but you either have to search or
it is.
be lucky.
Well, I was going to talk about Destroy All Never. So I watched 17 movies so far this month. Now there's a couple days left. but odds are
in
I'm
January you
in
watched
January,
17
I watched
movies?
17 movies. It doesn't
How
mean
many
they're
of
all
those
17
17 are
2024
above?
movies or anything.
Sure.
You got me by 5.
So of these 17 movies, how many are above 5 and how many are below 5?
I'm
If
only
just rough.
I'm only going to talk about. So to be honest with you, if you want to say above 5 or at 5,
5 or above.
Okay.
5 or above.
4.
Four of the 17. Okay.
And one of them was Destroy All Neighbors. So,
Okay.
And one of them might be another movie that you guys know. But I want to talk about a couple real quick ones because I got them in, and they're all kind of newer movies. So I watched Night Swim the other day.
Oh, you did watch Night Swim.
It hit streaming format, so I'm like, all right, I'll watch this. So Night Swim is about kind of like a malicious entity in a pool that it's kind of like supernatural. I mean, and a family moves in, and there's like he's a injured baseball player with his family backstory. This is exactly what you expect from like a PG-13 Blumhouse movie. It's, it's a thriller. Don't expect kills and violence and all that kind of stuff. It's more of like this cerebral horror. I gave it a 5 because it's as average as apple pie. You know what I mean? It's just I don't even know
Apple
if that
pie
makes
is
sense.
not average.
Yeah, well, it depends on
who made that movie. Was that a Blumhouse?
Yeah.
Or
it's Blumhouse.
It was Blumhouse.
Yeah, it's Blumhouse. It's not bad. I wouldn't tell anybody not to watch it. It's just I don't see where people are like, wow, this is amazing. I've seen a lot of 7s and 8s out there. I've seen a lot of 1s and 2s. I'm right in between. I'm like, what I didn't like, it's what I don't like in every Blumhouse movie, and what I like about it is what I like in every. You know what I mean? So
question.
Yes.
Let's put a little spoiler out there because I'm not gonna watch this shit. So, did we see any? Was the entity at least cool?
You really don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
PG-13.
you see like black, like fog. You see like kind of like a dude. I mean, it's a little creepy at times, but it's not like anything. No,
Yeah.
It's not like it's sinister and you have like the boogeyman in the background or something.
So is a lot of the 5 that you're giving this movie, is that just the quality of movie that Blumhouse puts out? The production quality, music quality, writing quality.
It's a fine movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's got production.
Right.
It's got like the acting's very well in it, and it's reliant on children acting in it. And I think,
which is tough.
and I think they do well. It's just, it's one of those movies that 15 minutes in, you know what the next hour is going to be, and you're just waiting for it. And there's no twists and turns really that go with it.
So kind of like Smile.
Yeah, like Smile's the same type.
Smile's
of,
the same concept. Yeah.
Smile disappointed me more actually, but
seriously,
people really like Smile. I didn't understand it, but people really, really like Smile.
I'll give you another one that Jay. I thought this is where you were going, and I
left it for you.
So Suitable Flesh hit streaming.
No, that wasn't it.
Okay, I say Suitable Flesh is one that I've been waiting for. It's Heather Graham. Been waiting a really long time for, and it hit Shudder this past week, and was really excited for it.
Roller Girl.
Yeah. I gave it a 4. And normally I wouldn't talk about that in this, but it's so new and everything. It's another one that I was just extremely let down. And the two main stars, Heather Graham and Barbara Crampton, right? Like I'm like, this is great. The story had potential because it's basically a demon takes over somebody's body, and then it like basically kills that person and goes on to the next one in kind of a way. But the demon's like very sexual in nature, if you will. So you got that going on, but that actually just makes it weird, because that's a lot of what the story is, where it should have been something else. I don't want to talk too much on it because I want to talk about the best of the month, but there's just not a whole lot.
I was going to say real quick, don't tell Mark Wahlberg that you gave Heather Graham a 4.
Well, listen, Heather Graham herself, and you see a little bit of Heather Graham in this movie.
You see a little bit of Heather Graham in every movie.
You're better off watching Boogie Nights, but I mean, it like I said, there's going to be people out there that really like it. Just for the hype that was surrounding it.
Yeah,
I was really disappointed.
It was high on the list. So let me ask you: should I still watch this? Knowing me,
and knowing you might like it. I don't know. To be honest with you, it's if this came out any I think Kirk, you hit this nail on the head of the January. If this was like September, October, no, like you wouldn't even. I mean, you might turn it off. You know what I mean? In January, you're like, all right, let me see what this is about.
January,
which
sucks.
is too bad. It's January and early February are always tough.
Yeah.
I text Mike, was it last night or the night before? I'm like, what should I watch? Give me some movies. List out some movies because the more recent the better. Like I wanted to watch a newer, and he was like, well, here's a few, and they're all from last year.
Which is newer. That's still no. There's been 2023 years in history. If I gave
yeah, but like I was thinking I wanted to get something that was new, but it's January, so it's tough. It's just a tough time. So is there any movies you guys are looking into for February? I guess we'll talk more about coming soon next week.
Yeah, that I haven't even
looked at it yet. Yeah.
I haven't. I will tell you one last one, Kirk, before we go to that.
Yep.
I watched one have you heard of this Dream Scenario? I watched it. It is with Nicolas Cage.
Ooh.
It's very Nicolas Cage at this point of his
dream
career.
Scenario where he's like in everybody's dream.
Yeah.
Right?
So the premise of this is he's a teacher.
It's a horror movie.
It's listed as a horror movie. He's a teacher, and he starts showing up in everybody's dreams. And at first, everybody's like, "Hey,
that's the only thing I know.
You're
about
in my
right
dreams."
There.
But then the dreams start to get violent, and then. He's still, you know what I mean? Like all those people are like, hey, it's not really, in my opinion, it's not really a horror movie.
Modern day Freddy Krueger.
But it's very like A24-ish, artsy, interesting. It's still, it's another 5, by the way. I did not think this was that great of a movie. It had so much potential, but it's kind of like, but I think it's worth a watch because it's so interesting.
Everything with Nick Cage, I think, is worth a watch. Like The Color of Space, I keep meaning to put that on. I really want to see that one. Mandy, obviously, and there's just so many more movies that he's done recently, and I mean recently over the last like 5-ish years. That Pig, I mean, it's not a horror movie, but it's an excellent
Pig
movie.
Was great.
Like
Pig was great.
Yeah, he keeps putting out decent movies.
Willy's
so
Wonderland is the best, I think, horror movie he's put out recently.
I like Mandy an awful lot.
Mandy, I got to rewatch. I didn't dislike it. Color of Space was all right, but Willy's Wonderland was just fun.
He doesn't have any speaking parts in that, right?
And what there are no he doesn't speak. You also got Renfield or Ryan, whatever that just came out.
Renfield, Mandy was 2018, so that's relatively recent. So that one's kind of a trippy movie.
I got to go back. I'm assuming one of you guys will put it on the wheel at some point in time, and then I'll watch it again. So.
It's Mandy's going on the wheel for me at some point.
That's what I assume. So I'm just not.
I've never seen it yet either, so I'm looking forward to that.
You haven't seen Mandy?
I have not.
Interesting. I've got one up on you. This doesn't happen. I'm spiking the football. You know. I take the wins when I can. All right, I think that kind of wraps up best of what we watched. Hopefully, as we go through the year, this sounds a little bit better coming from us. But it is January. Bear with us. We're either reaching into 2023 or slogging through the trash. So it is what it is when it comes to movies. We'll be better for you in the future, but. I think there's a 30 seconds coming up very quickly here.
I agree. So I think it's time to spring forward.
Spring to the main feature.
And now, on with the show.
So, as we previously discussed, it was another Jason victory, AJV. I don't know if anybody else wins at this point in time ever again, but
I don't think there's anyone else on the wheel to tell you the truth.
The wheel's definitely ignoring us, but
it's definitely going to ignore you more in February.
Well, it will now because you get that extra slot, which
the chances are against us for sure.
Which sucks. But that's going to be the month you'll win nothing, and it'll just be funny. But.
Probably.
So the victor go the spoils, and if there's at least one benefit of not winning, it's that Kirk and I don't have to do the 30-second plots.
I don't even know what the 30 seconds feels like. I don't even remember.
let me remind you.
Yeah. Here's the only part I remember.
Well, I would say the next words out of your mouth, Jason, better be a synopsis.
Okay, so you have Evan, who gets in a fight back in America, decides I got to get out of the country so I don't get arrested, goes out to Italy, meets this this strange woman that basically as he goes to learn that she every 20 years metamorphoses into this monster stuff just to rebirth herself and she's 2,000 years old. It's a romantic comedy. It's all over the place. It's a lot of fun, and that's my synopsis.
Time. Yeah, you
That was
almost
right at
timed
30
that
seconds.
perfect.
That's
It
pretty
was right at 30 seconds.
pretty impressive.
I mean, I was trying to figure it out all in one, but it just kind of went all over the place. So it's all good.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think it's one of your
about it.
I think it's one of your better synopsises.
It's my best one this year.
Well, that's
I think it's the best one I've ever heard you do, to tell you the truth. I think you hit all the major beats. I mean, it's not a romantic
I've had a good one
comedy.
before.
There's a little bit of comedy, but you were in the neighborhood.
Did I say comedy?
you
did.
you said
I might have, but I didn't mean to say
You
comedy.
said romantic comedy, but it's okay because we're gonna keep walking down the street here, and it's time for
Behind the Scream.
All right, so Spring is a 2014 Lovecraftian romantic body horror film directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead and starring Lou Taylor Pucci and Nadia Hilker. The film follows Evan, a young man who travels to Italy and pursues a woman named Louise, who, unknown to Evan, is not entirely human. Spring premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 5th, 2014, before receiving a limited theatrical release through Drafthouse Films on March 20th, 2015. The film received positive reviews from critics and grossed $49,970 worldwide. Rotten Tomatoes reports that 85% of 60 surveyed critics gave the film a positive review. The average score is a 7.4 out of 10, and IMDb scored a 6.7. The body count in this movie, ironically, was only 1. So,
More rabbits died in this movie than humans.
yeah, and cats. Yeah, so.
And cats.
Poor-
Even amount of cats.
Yes.
There was an even amount of cats.
But
poor rabbits.
let's talk a little facts. So, number one here, almost all of Louise's flat was furnished through IKEA. So, little shout out to IKEA there. The director used a drone photography throughout this movie. Obviously, we've seen, a lot of the high, camera angles over the city and over the water, things like that. Ironically, the cast got in trouble in the Moscow airport through thinking that it was a military drone. So they all got busted for this, had to fight their way out of it, so on and so forth. There was a very, very long ass paragraph, so I just put down the cool stuff out of it. And last but not least, Louise states that she re-evolves into a different creature every spring equinox in order to retain her immortality by getting pregnant. Fittingly, spring is a symbol for rebirth or a cleansing, as a metaphor for her metamorphosis every 20 years. So, Kirk, Mike, what do you got?
I like just how you kind of went Eminem on there with the wordplay there. That was
You like
He's
that?
a poet, and he doesn't even know it.
You know it.
I will tell you, Moorhead and Benson. So that's obviously the
writers.
directing crew and the writing crew. They're a type of atmosphere type directors. So if you haven't seen The Endless, it's a very popular movie, but it's not for everybody. Synchronic. If you've never seen Synchronic, that's with Anthony Mackie, and I can't remember the other guy's name. That's a little bit more mainstream, but they do a really good job of the movies they direct. I think they've moved on to I know they're doing the new who's the blind super character, Daredevil. They're doing that now.
Daredevil.
They just did Moon Knight. They moved on to Disney style stuff,
Marvel type
plus
stuff,
yeah,
yeah.
Marvel. But if you watch some of their older stuff, it's actually really good.
Yeah, you can tell the writers have talent. So the fun fact that I got, Benson and Moorhead claimed they wrote this movie as a counterpoint to Anne Rice's the Vampire Chronicles. It's about a creature who actually enjoys the strange condition of immortality instead of regrets it, because that's what Lestat was all about in Vampire Chronicles.
Yeah.
Was he kind of cursed his curse, and she was like afraid of losing her curse. That was the big ordeal that was going through on that. That was the fun fact. The other one I had was the IKEA furniture one too. So you already took that one. I had a feeling you would, but
that was a short sentence. So
yeah, for sure. But that's all I got.
Well, listen, so that goes into our rate and review side of it here. So here at MVJ Horrorcast, we like to rate and review on 5 different acts, if you will, right? So we rate on... Or I'm sorry, we use a 1 to 10 rating scale, I should say. So 1 being the worst, 10 being the greatest thing that you've ever seen. But we rate 5 different acts. That's what I should say. So Act 1 is the story beats. And Kirk, what does that mean?
Yeah, story beats. So it's exactly what you're thinking about it is. It's going to be your story, your concept, the 3 different acts of the movie, what kind of brings it all together, or what pulls it apart, the little nitpicky story things that you might see, or the nitpicky things that you just love. So it's all those, anything that was in the writing, in the story, that makes the whole thing flow.
So Jay, your movie, kick us off. Story beats. What do you think?
So I think the story it's fun. I think it's more like a mythological story, more than like a horror story. Obviously it's we talked in my behind the screen there, it's a body horror film, obviously, with the metamorphosis and things like watching her turn into the different creatures, but
it's Lovecraft.
It's very very
Lovecraftian. This is the definition of it, in my opinion.
There's a lot of conversations throughout this movie too that I think kind of took away from what they could have done, I think, a little bit more on the horror element side of things. So I was, I think there was a little bit too much conversation in this movie personally, but I mean, I think, you get a lot in the 3rd act on this. The concept on the rebirth in spring, I thought that was brilliant because, we talked about the metamorphosis earlier. I think that kind of all ties together in this. It the story and the concept just metamorphosize itself into this love story.
So speaking of that, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a love story. This is a solid love story. But what I like about this is, Jay, you're talking about, the metamorphosis, right? And her changing, but this story does the same thing. It morphs from, where the beginning is, where he's in, was he Philadelphia or something? Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, the writing at the beginning of this, that whole bar, it is hilarious. The writing is great in this.
I knew there was comedy somewhere.
The one-liners are great throughout this, but the story morphs into then a love story, but then it's got this dark side, and you're waiting to feel, and then she unveils I'm the girl in the painting, and I'm 2,000 years old, right. And it then morphs back into. So I don't know. I think this, the way they wrote this, flows through this movie perfectly. And Jay, I agree. The 3rd act, the ending of this movie, I love it.
But the 3rd act is still a love. It is a love romance movie
through and through.
Even in the 3rd act,
through and through,
right?
Throughout the whole thing.
Absolutely, through the whole thing.
It is a love movie with some teasing of Lovecraftian, which he is confronted with a Lovecraftian thing that's cosmic horror. That's something bigger than your mind can handle. That's what Lovecraftian is. Mm-hmm. I put this as a romance sci-fi. Facts.com actually has this as a supernatural romance film, but the story beats on this is almost pulled, at least early on in the movie, directly from the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, The Beach. It was a fish out of water that goes and parties, meets up with some guys, parties. They find the beach. Once they find the beach, they say the beach changes them and they're part of the local culture. And they see other Americans as these gross, yucky, loud people. And that's a story beat you see leading up to the guy that's trying to rape her in the coming up into the 3rd act. Mm-hmm. The one guy who did die, he's got his red, white, and blue underwear and bandana on. It's just kind of absurd there. One fun fact that I thought I forgot to go through, virtually all the conversations in this movie was improv. So the actors were given free reign to kind of make the conversations more natural. I think we'll talk about more about that in the arc, because that definitely was a strong point in the acting and the character development. But when it came to the story, it felt like kind of a ripoff of The Beach. It felt like more of a tease of a horror movie than it was a horror movie. But it's a real cute movie about two people being faced with something that they're both nervous about and overcoming it. So it's a good character piece about two people. I struggled with it with the horror part.
I agree. Listen, I don't think this is now this obviously if you've been listening to this podcast, top 50 horror movies of all time, it made my top 50.
Yep.
I obviously you'll probably see that throughout here, but I do. This is loosely a horror movie. It's a monster movie. It's supernatural. It's Lovecraftian.
It teases a monster.
It teases it all throughout, though. And she is turning into it. And I mean, like the one scene where she turns this, you know what I mean? Like it's there throughout. It's just subtle, you know. But if something's subtle there, almost 90% of the movie, it's there. Like I just like. Sometimes it's subtle.
It's a very smart movie.
Yeah,
I would say that.
Yeah. It knows what it's doing.
It's a creative Lovecraftian love movie, and it's a hard thing to kind of merge.
Right.
But I think they did a decent job at it.
No, they did. I just think, like I said earlier, I think if you take, there's a lot of conversation in this movie. There's a lot of talking. If you take some of that conversation out and do a little bit more with her character turning and maybe even putting a few more deaths into this, I agree with Kirk.
But they didn't want to make it. And once again, I obviously haven't talked with Moorhead and Benson, but the reason they made the American a douchebag that dies is you can't make her be the monster. You gotta sympathize for her the entire time and believe that she wants to be
Which
different.
is an interesting choice because killing the two rabbits and the cat, you think in today's culture would come across as more of a monster than killing the human. You know what I mean? People get a little up in arms when you kill pets.
Yeah.
And she went ham on a rabbit.
Yeah, it would be a FEMA issue.
So Jay, where are you ranking this?
So I gave it a 7. I feel, the story, like I talked about, it's very mythological. I love mythology. That was like my favorite thing growing up with mythology, the constellations, the stars, the stories from the Greek myth, things like that. It's very mythological. It's almost like watching, a caterpillar, go through a metamorphosis into a butterfly. Like that's what this movie is. You're watching a love story that's kind of taking the shape of a monster that, turns mortal. And, it's just really cool. So I liked it.
If you're right when it came to the monster part, I'd probably be right there, but it wasn't a monster. It was the trapped DNA from her body that was trying to come out as she was doing her metamorphosis. So it wasn't actually a monster. It just was creatures from the 2000 year, or maybe even her mother's past.
But it was still
kind of locked
in
there.
But I feel like that's nitpicking. Like that's saying The Fly.
Sure.
The movie The Fly, is it a monster movie? I think you could say it's a monster movie, but really it's just
a monster.
That'd be the equivalent of saying, nah, it's kind of just a bug. It's a bug movie.
Yeah.
Like, no, he turns into something. She's turning into all these different random.
She wasn't turning into it though.
She did though. She turned to that octopus thing.
Yeah, like the long hand, like she was
octopus.
She was,
but a shot
out.
And her
fine.
face was gone.
Yeah.
So
Kirk,
Kirk,
here's
where
my thing. Yeah, so it's a romance sci-fi. I think it's got story beats I'm pretty rough on the story beat on it. I'm not going to lie. It's got things that are ripped from The Beach. I don't think it's really a horror movie, though I think it's a good movie if I was not rating it from the lens of horror. So I gave it a 1. So I really ripped the story beats pretty hard.
That makes literally zero sense.
Zero sense whatsoever, dude.
But
if I'm looking at a movie through a horror lens and it's not a horror movie, it takes a hit. And I think it's ripped from The Beach. And I think it's a teased monster more than we actually got a monster. I
got to tell you, everything is taken from something at this point in time, though. So
Sure.
you would have to literally rip everything that you ever, rate and rank kind of going forward.
Yeah.
Everything's subjective, right?
Yeah.
That's where we are. So Jay,
I didn't hate it. I'm just saying it wasn't.
One
Mike,
is the worst.
just agree with me.
One is
so we
one
can,
is the worst.
so we can
Jay,
make Kirk look bad here.
I'm a 7.
No, he's got it in his top 50.
I'm a 7 on this. I thought I think it's there's little nuances that it could have done better, but realistically, this is a great. The story is fantastic. It's fantastically written, and that third act is perfect. So
I think it just comes down to Kirk just can't like anything that I put on as of lately.
Well, you don't know what the final score is
it has
going to be,
nothing
too. So
I'm giving him a hard time.
This has nothing to do with you. This is
I know.
taken from the lens of a horror movie. I thought it was a
messing
cute
around with you.
movie, but it's it's a cute movie.
I mean, you want to keep saying cute a lot. So our next act that we like to rate, we call it the arc, and the arc is basically, it stands for 3 things, right? It's the acting, the relatability, and the character development when it comes to going off of the story that we just talked about. So I'll kick this one off here on the arc. So I think this is Kirk, you kind of alluded to this. I think this is one of the strong points. I think there's a lot of strong points to this movie, but I did not know that about the improv dialogue, which is kind of amazing because I find this very witty and funny. But I really want to go with the character development. The 2 main characters, first off, I don't think there's a bad character in this movie. The old man, I love his character. The friends, even though they're only at the beginning or whatever, I love those characters. But the story between Evan and Luis, I don't think it gets better than that. I think the development and the chemistry that they had together is amazing. I think it's a huge strong point, and it makes it extremely relatable at that point. Because if you're asking yourself throughout, what would I do in this moment? Where would I be? Like, how would I react? Would I go home with her the minute she asked me at the bar? Right? Like, all these things, like it puts that relatability in context pretty quickly. But I think the character development is so strong with everybody that touches the screen in this. They even, in the brief moment, they made the American douchebag an easy American douchebag, and he's in it for, I don't know, a total of 30 seconds of screen time. I mean, it's pretty impressive, but that's what I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah. So, I agree with everything you said. So it's Evan's story. Evan is definitely our main character. He's the one coming into contact with this Lovecraftian entity and having to mentally, physically, everything figure it out. Their dialogue back and forth to each other actually felt real. Like, there's so much times I hit on this, a lot of these horror movies. I'm like, this sounds like ChatGPT. This is not the way human beings talk to each other. This feels like the way I would talk to somebody that maybe I don't have the balls of Evan. Like, he went right up to the hottest chicks left and right and was talking to them. But the actual banter between the two and the flirtiness and just their play and the end monologue where they're worried about her changing, and he's talking about the infant. I don't even know. Don't help me with the words here, guys.
Infinite.
The finality. Oh. Yeah, the non-infinite life. Like what she kept telling her. Tell me about it. Tell me more about it, because I think she felt herself falling in love. When she falls in love, that's what stops her cycle of regeneration, and she just becomes human. And he has a monologue at the very end that I thought was very well done, very relatable, very much it's about Evan's character development from this drunk stoner, just banging random chicks, to now he is this person that enjoys life and appreciates life. And I thought the arc, the acting, the relatability, the character development was far and away the best part of this entire movie.
Yeah. So I want to talk about one little part of the arc here that we really have not talked too much about in the last couple of weeks. And that's the relatability piece of this. A lot of the movies that we've done so far, which were all
they feel like real humans.
Yes.
They feel like two real humans.
You nailed it. It's we don't really talk too much about the relatability in some of the movies we just did, because you really can't do that with Phenomena. You can't do that with the other. You couldn't do it. This one, you have two human beings, in a love story. You take away the creature aspect of it and the being, the metamorphosizing every 20 years, whatever, for the last 2,000 years. You got two people falling in love, and I think that's very relatable. So I thought that was really, really a great.
And I think you fall
piece.
in love with the characters while you're watching.
Absolutely,
them, in essence,
absolutely. And the other part, which I'm going to kind of piggyback off Mike, I thought the dynamic the dynamic relationship between Evan and Louise this is probably one of the best dynamics I've seen in a movie probably in the last couple of years. Like it flowed. You just kind of like, you just get involved. And honestly, until Kirk said, this was like completely like ad-libbed like that, I actually changed my rating on this. I actually went a little higher. I'm not going to lie, because I did not know that. And that impressed the living shit out of me. And one last thing I want to throw in here, Nadia Hilker, who played Louise, I never realized, but she was one of the main characters in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you didn't know that?
Well, because she didn't look that good in The Walking Dead, because she was all dirty.
I still love the line in there where he finally understands who she is, and she goes, "I ate my rabbit." It's just, I don't know, just the way she says it. Or even there's a line where she delivers, when they have to leave the city, because she's like, "You're gonna go to jail," and she's like, "They're gonna rape you." Like, just how she delivers some of these lines. Like I said, me saying it is not funny, but
even him, like he goes, if you become mortal, I'll quit smoking.
Well, so we talked about the relatability in the character. Like I said this earlier, this is Evan's movie. He is our main character, our first person. When this movie got started, I was like, these are going to be some bros. This is going to be annoying. And they set you up very low bar. And then as the movie progresses, you see the character develop. You see he's not drinking as much. He's not smoking weed at all. Like, you see his clarity come. He's gotten away from his troubles in his past. His mother had just passed. His father had just passed. And it's like you see the growth of the character. And for a small little movie like this, I thought that was quite impressive.
Yeah. So, I mean, they don't make any of them bad at any moment, right? Like, even him at his worst, he's likable. He's taking care of his mother. And her at her worst, like, she's trying, she's a doctor. She's trying to, like, learn the genetics of it. But Kirk, this comes to you first on this one. Where do you rank this one?
Yeah, so I gave this an 8 out of 10. I thought it was well written. What was written, I thought it was well done. I think they develop Evan extremely well, and I think her character playing off of him was just kind of fun. It was fun anytime they were in the room together.
Yeah, I was an 8 as well. Multiple snowmen here. I think this. There's a couple things once again. I mean, that it could have improved on, but the dynamic is a 1,000,000%. Jay, where do you land?
Yeah, so the slot machine just hit a 888. So I think that I was a 7, but I put it up another point here to an 8 when Kirk made the mention about the ad-libbing, and I thought, like, wow, because it reeled me in. But I still think the conversations were a little bit too much. Just I wanted to see maybe some more action. But yeah, it definitely an 8 for this.
It'd make you think that Evan and Louise, the two actors, not the characters they play, knew each other prior to this. Like, they just had such good chemistry to each other.
You would think. I don't know if they did, though. But all right. That takes us to Act 3, which is visual appeal. And Kirk, what does that mean?
Yeah, so the visual appeal is going to be your effects, your visuals, your cinematography, your gore, just anything you see that's on the screen. Anything that makes you say that looks terrible or that looks great. It's anything you see. That is our visual appeal. So
what do you think, Kirk, on visual appeal?
Yeah, so this one was tough for me, especially the beginning of the movie. So they started the movie off with these really strange filters and really strange lights. And I was like, fuck, man, this is going to be an annoying movie. But it grew just like the relatable and the character development. So it grew and became clearer as Evan became more clear. Once he saw Louise sitting on by that tree in the red dress, it's like the movie kind of crispened up to 4K outside of this weird filter type thing. So past that, I kind of understood what they were doing more. You are getting a show, not tell type movie directors and videographers and all that stuff. They were showing you things. They were showing you the duality of death, the dead sheep, the dead birds, the dead animals so that was showing that finality of life and death. And and it kind of co-played with what Luis was dealing with. So, also the ending of friendships, the drunk guy, the two guys that he met in Italy.
Where he calls him on the phone and he,
right.
Yeah.
They don't distinctly tell you, hey, I'm growing as a character. I don't need you anymore. They're showing you growing as a character. He calls his buddy up to say, hey, I'm dating this monster, and he's stoned out of his brain. And he's like realizing that that's unimportant right now. And he goes, you're good, man. I'll call you another time, hangs it up. So it's the development of what they're showing us, I thought was very good. And like I said, it was a more show, not tell type movie. And that is happening so rarely today in movies. They want to show you and then narrate what they just showed you to make it obvious on the screen. So I thought it was great.
Yeah,
I
I agree. I think the views of the city are beautiful and how they film it, and
their drone footage.
The drone footage. I mean, obviously, when the drones because it's going up and around the side or whatever. But even when they go in the cave and you have like that water coming up from the bottom, like every scene of this, they use the best of their ability in the areas. Even when they're in the cave, when she's in the cave,
blue light,
with the not blue the
light, the water. That's
not that part. When that's what I was just talking about. But when they're in the, she's in the cave, eating the rabbits or whatever. Like everything looks authentic. It feels authentic. I agree. How
that's
it starts
part of
at
the character development.
It is.
The character development is showing. She's getting excited about Evan as a person, and she wants to show him this beautiful cave that she saw.
Yeah.
And we're coming just after seeing this beautiful cave where she ate 2 rabbits and painted on the wall and naked and kind of frail looking. It's like they're showing you this progression of the two people, which was, I thought that's more of a character development. I scored that, but still, it's just visually good.
And I'll say when Lewis is turning, I think it looks really good. I think there's a moment or two where you're like, I see the CGI, but for the most part, her looking looks great. My favorite is when she looks to the right and she's like the half skeletal face or whatever.
When she's in the church,
it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
So
the only thing that kind of ruined that part for me, I 100% agree with you. Her half face and the eye sunken was good. But the kind of comedic touch with that little tail kind of swinging behind him, I didn't know if I was supposed to laugh or be afraid of it. Like
I think that was supposed to be comedy for sure. Because she kept pushing it down,
It was kind of mistimed for me because I felt like just her.
It didn't need that goofy humor. Like the movie has good dark humor at times or just random. It doesn't need to go.
But if they would have cut that part out and just go back to the girl in the pew in the front when she was like, I don't know, some zombies back there taking heroin, that was the perfect line to follow up from it instead of showing this weird tail that was kind of. And also the first time he saw her, that weird tail was sitting on the counter the whole time after the fact when he was like, all right, tell me what you are. And there's that weird tail. It's always that weird tail hanging out somewhere, which I thought was a little weird.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was laughing at that too, but I thought that maybe they were doing that just to kind of like take that creature effect a little bit more to like make it a little bit more fun because of the relationship that they're trying to build with that or whatever. But one thing I do want to say, I mean, you guys basically hit like 90% what I had written down. I mean, Kirk, I swear you stole my notes. But like, no, because I had everything written down, like saying, hey, it was like 2 different movies. Like it started with like this, it looked like they were filming on an iPhone. And then they just open up to this like 4K like universe when they hit Italy. But one thing I will say, I think this is where the arc completely uplifts the visual appeal. And what I mean by this is the cinematography, I think, is everything about this movie. The cinematography is absolutely fucking it's gorgeous. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's everything. But the character development, that characters that you have in this movie with the conversations, the mortality, the metamorphosis, all this shit, like it just plays into those effects and that appeal. No gore, but you still got like everything that kind of just like like we talked about,
But
and
visual appeal's
metamorphosis
not
together.
It's not all gore. It's anything you see or feel, and the growth of what you see too. So
Right.
I was very nervous to start off. These weird green filters and these, and it's the same thing as what they. And I'm bringing it back to the beach. The beach did the same type of thing. It gave you all these weird kind of party boy filters, and then it pulled it back once they got to the beach. And then when they came back on island, everything felt off, and it just had that same kind of which, I mean, The Beach is a great movie, so but how are we scoring this? Mike, are you going first?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. So I'm a 7. I think the visuals look great for the most part of everything that they do. I think everything we just talked about leads to a 7, so that's where I am. Jay.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you. I gave this a 7 as well.
We're scoring this the same so far, and I don't appreciate this, but I do appreciate it at the same time. So
I'm gonna stop there.
I mean,
I gave it a 7.
I was a little bit different than you guys at the first scoring, but and I'm a little bit different on this scoring as well. At first, I thought I was going to be pretty low on this, but the way it grew made me show that they were really going for dualities, and it was the finite versus the immortal, which I completely pick up on that theme. I loved it. I gave it an 8 out of 10, so I'm a little bit higher.
Oh,
on you guys.
Wow! I started to write down 6. I just assumed that's where you were going.
I thought so too.
I'm higher on you guys. It could have been a 5 or 6 if it would have stick with those weird ass filters, but they were doing it on purpose.
Yeah, but
to
the point.
Us.
Yeah, it's the point of the movie, like that. That turns it up here a little bit. Which, speaking of turn up, let's get into Act 4 here, which is sound design. And sound design is basically exactly what it says. It's the audio of the movie. It is, whether it be the soundtrack, whether it be the dialogue, and how it's recorded, how it's mixed, the waves crashing in the ocean, right? Anything that provides sound.
Anything you hear, sound mixing, sound effects, score, all that.
You got it. So what did you guys think of sound design?
So I had a hard time even going back and remembering what the score was. So actually, post movie, I went back onto YouTube and found the soundtracks. It's a very lovey, soft, caring. It's a love story. The score matches that perfectly, right? So the only other thing that I have to point out is I usually watch, especially a lot of movies that have foreign accents and closed captions, and my closed captions were off by about 5 minutes. It was through Shudder or wherever this was.
It was on Shudder.
It's on Shudder.
Yeah, it had a 5-minute delay. So what was written at the bottom was delayed about 5 minutes from.
I think that's your Shudder, because I have to watch the same thing, and I had no
issues.
Mine, so
it was off for me, so I had to turn
old
it
man's
off.
Podcast.
Yeah, I'm getting old. I am definitely, but I struggled with the old farmer. I struggled with some of the drunk friends. Just kind of strong accents. So it's something like, if your closed captions aren't working, it gets a little difficult.
But is that a movie issue, or is that a Shudder issue? Because Jason and I did not have the same issue, which means it was just the Shudder was having.
My point being is, it's a tough movie to listen to if you're not used to closed captions. So
Gotcha.
if my closed captions would have worked, it'd have been fine.
Gotcha.
But you do have to watch it with closed captions because they're very authentic. Like that old farmer guy, he is hard to hear. He is hard to understand. So if you don't, I'm just complaining about it because my closed captions wouldn't match. But even if they would match, you would need them.
Did you know the old farmer guy? I looked it up. He died within a year of this movie coming out.
Oh, seriously?
Really? I've seen him in other things too.
Angelo the farmer?
Yeah, he died in 2015, and this movie was 2014, but
Yeah.
it came out late in 2014, and he died earlier in 2015, I want to say. So,
He was looking pretty
going
scraggly.
to him, I'll say this. I was thinking I would have put money midway through this movie that his wife was going to be her.
oh, that would have been an
Like-
interesting twist, but then
like,
it would have been really weird.
Well, he would have known because the DNA swap every 20 years. So she looks like a whole different person every 20 years. That was the point. And she had to leave them because it was a similar DNA, so they would have been related. So I thought for sure she was able to close that door, which she couldn't close that door with Evan. That's where I thought. The story
I mean,
was
it'd be
going.
interesting, but then it would be like he's sleeping with his ex-wife. Like that would have just been a weird triangle. That
When you're 2,000 years old, that kind of stuff happens.
But
right?
correct me if
You
I'm
can't be-
wrong. I think we're in sound design.
yeah, we are in sound design. So let me.
We just got into the old guy. I couldn't understand
what
what he was talking.
what I will say about the sound design is there's actually a lack of music throughout this, and I
There is.
actually think it makes it better in this scenario. Like, yeah, it has that ominous, music, every once in a while playing in the background, but I think instead of like, cramming in a soundtrack here, music here, they let the dialogue be. They let the atmosphere, if you will, like
The
you
vibe
hear
go.
the
Yep.
waves and the birds and the people in the back. You hear it, and I think that kind of goes back to the arc and to it makes it feel real. Because when you're walking through your day, you might have an internal soundtrack, but there's not a soundtrack playing out there. And I think this is kind of like goes to that a little bit.
when
so.
I'm walking around town.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, I think it set the tone throughout. Like you had nothing dominant, like Mike said. The sound effects were decent throughout this, but there was nothing to like go woohoo over, like compared to like last week when we had like Iron Maiden and Motorhead. But like, this week it was just, you kind of just had more of like that peaceful feeling, like just like someone put on like their like, what's those tapes that you listen to when you're trying to fall asleep at night with the waves crashing and shit like that. It's not like someone just threw that on in the background.
That's for sure. So if you go into YouTube and go Spring 2014 movie soundtrack, so it's a very somber, very caring, very love-esque type music.
So, Jay, where do you fall on sound design?
Yeah, here I was this is probably one of my lower ones. So I was more of a 4 here, just because, like I said, there's nothing that's really dominant. It's decent. There's really not much of it. Nothing that I don't even fucking remember any of it. I just know it just was toned throughout.
So I'm well, actually, no, Kirk, this is you. You're next on this one.
Yeah, so I'm matching Jason there. I'm at a 4 as well. There's nothing I can really point to as bad. It's just the score was kind of forgettable, so I had to go back and listen. And if you don't have closed caption, it is kind of hard to hear everybody because they are authentic accents. But that being said, I don't think anything was bad. It just was kind of unforgettable. So I put it just barely off of average.
So I'm slightly above it. I'm a 6. I thought the sound effects were amazingly spot on in this movie, and like I said, I think the lack of music leads to all that. So it's still a lower category for me, but I thought it did well, which takes us to our 5th and final act that we rate. Jay, it's Carnage. What does that mean?
Okay, so Carnage, we talk about 3 main factors here. We got, the kills. We talk about, the mayhem that's going on throughout the movie. And most importantly, like, do we have fun? Are we having fun through this? Is the audience going to have fun watching this? So I'll kind of kick this off here. So for me and the Carnage character, like we talked about earlier, I think I said it already. There was only one kill in this. The guy with the American flag shorts, and it's pretty. Which you don't see. It's real quick. It's done. You just see. Really, the only Carnage mayhem that comes out of this is her maybe eating the bunnies, but you really don't see that either. So the only thing that I thought was really cool about this category was it was definitely a lot of fun. So I don't know what you guys got.
Yeah, so like you said, there's only one real death, and they do it very symbolically. They show the blood on the wall. They show his body kind of laid over the rocks. They show the old blind lady. They're letting your brain fill in a lot of what there is. The whole third act is just Evan kind of begging her to fall in love and stay with him, and that's a bold move. And I just kept thinking it was funny. I was like, you guys knew each other for a week, and you're about to take this girl's immortality. Like, you're begging her to take her inventory. And like, what if next week you find out she farts in her sleep or something like that? Like, this relationship is
they all do.
So it kind of nitpicking little stuff. I kind of wish there was a little bit more lore they went into. I kind of wish they kind of explained where she left the rose or what was going on with the rose. Because she goes, "Hey, I want to introduce you to some people older than me," and she put a rose at those mummified people. At first, we thought that was going to be part of her family or something like that, which was kind of cool. But they went to Pompeii, and her family was in the Pompeii accident from Vesuvius, which I thought was kind of a cool tie-in, being in Italy and all that stuff. But overall, it just there wasn't really kills, there wasn't really mayhem. It just was elaborating upon their love story and him kind of professing himself that he knows now, and why doesn't she know that she loves him? So that it was just a conversation about trying to get her to not.
Yeah, but you got to remember,
live forever.
It's funny because when it comes down to it, and they say it's been a week, I'm sure you guys had the same reaction I did of like, that's it. It's only been a week. I thought this was over like months or something.
2 months, yeah.
But
I'm a farmer now.
But
you're a farmer.
But you got to remember, like, he's leaving her basically over everything, and then he sees the old man, with the way, and then he realizes there's one love of your life, and he's found her. So it's kind of I'm with you guys. There's no mayhem. There's no carnage to this. It definitely is fun as hell. But I think the slow progression throughout the movie of her trying to not get caught is kind of like a little cat and mouse game. It's fun.
You think she'd be better at it?
You think she'd be better at it, but she
2,000
she's
years,
also,
every
I think
20
she's
years,
kind of towards the end. I think she was ready to kind of just mail it in a couple times, and I think some of it was because of Evan. She's like, I don't think I want to go on and restart all this after I think I did find something. You know what I mean? Like, there's probably some undertones there, but I think the road trip they take at the end is fun. I think the guys are fun, like at the beginning, whether it be the first ones he meets in Italy or, I think there's just fun and there's banter throughout, but I think that's the only place you can really hang your head when it comes to this category.
It's not a strength of the movie.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
So for not a strength, what would your not a score be?
Are you asking me? So with this movie, I gave it a 2. There's no real kills, mayhem, fun. It's more of a date night type movie, which my wife was like, "Oh, that's cute," right? So, and I keep using the word cute, and I don't mean it as an insult. Like, it is a really good, cute movie. It's just I'm rating this through the lens of a horror podcast. So, it just, there wasn't a lot there. Not a lot of meat on the bones there.
So I'm below average, but I'm higher than you. I'm a 4 here. I think it's fair. Like I said, it's fun, and I like what they were going for, but you can't really give it, in my opinion, terribly too high here. There's just not a lot there. So Jay, where did you land?
Yeah, I'm right in between you two. I gave this a 3 only because, you got 3 things in here. So, you kind of got to take the average. I thought it was a lot of fun, so I gave it a 3 for the fun.
Yeah.
All right. So while I am tallying our scores here, we still have the chance to give it 1 to 10 bonus points if you like. And I'll open it up if you guys are doing anything here.
Yeah, I've already been pretty rough on this movie because I think of the lack of horror on it, and I think I let the parts I thought of this movie really shine. I scored it as such. The arc, the acting, relatability, character development, those two, Evan and Louise, playing off each other, and then the visual appeal were just excellent. I think those are the strengths of this movie, which I scored it appropriately, and I really hit it pretty hard. I think in the store beats and the carnage. When it came to lack of horror. So I didn't give it anything. So that was a long-winded answer of just saying, no, I didn't do anything.
I'm going to do the short-winded answer. I didn't give it a bonus.
Yeah. For the same reason I did.
For the exact same reason.
I'm giving it 5 points here. And I'm giving it 5 points for, it was 2 things, but really one of them, because I was going to say that the humor and the dialogue I thought was good, but we kind of talked about it earlier. I'm giving it a bonus 5 points for, I love the accent. Luis, like the Nadia Hilker's character, it's worth it to me. I love the accent and how she talked. So Kirk, after scoring this, and I'm sure you're going to say your numbers are wrong, but you gave it a 4.6 on the
that is
scale
correct,
here,
my friend.
which is technically
Average.
Yeah, 46 or 23 out of 50, which equals a 4.6 here. Jay,
Yep.
you came in at 29 out of 50, which equals a 5.8.
what I got.
And then I came in at 37 out of 50, so it's a 7.4 for me.
He has to justify that 46th place on his top 50 countdown.
Listen,
Yes,
to
I was
me-
thinking the same thing.
to me, it's a great movie. Listen, I could score
it
it a
is a good
5.
movie.
It's still, when you do top 50, you're not doing it based off of scoring. You're doing it
No,
based off
you're
of
not.
feels. And
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, the minute this movie ended, I had the same feeling as I did the first time, which is just a feel of like, wow,
Yeah.
I just felt happy.
Good
I
movie.
felt like,
Yep.
wow, that was a really good movie. I also felt like I should have watched it with the wife as well. Kirk, you're smarter than me, but
Yeah, we should have.
I think it's
So
a
date night
great
movie.
guess what? I actually watched it with Jess. Jess watched it with me. So
What'd she think?
she liked it, actually. Hasn't really liked much of what we watched before. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. She had to wake me up a couple times throughout just because I just got done working a 14-hour day. But I mean, I've seen this movie already once before, but I rewound it and rewatched the parts that I wasn't. But yeah, Jess watched this with me and she really enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
Well, Jay, if you keep throwing my top 50 movies on your list, you're going to have better scores from me this year than you did.
They're all
so,
these
so you're
love romance
admitting
movies.
to be biased.
No, you're putting on movies that I'm already admitted to really enjoying. That makes it.
So my 3 movies this week are going to be The Collector, Haunt, and The Final Girls.
Oh,
So,
man. Well,
see how it goes.
Well, I think we've done them all. I think maybe not Haunt.
Yeah, oh,
did we do
dang.
Haunt? I think we did. So
we did do Hunt.
yes.
Just
So
teasing. Those aren't my movies. Those are his. I'm keeping track of the scores.
I think all those we've recorded so far. So have at it.
Yes,
if you will.
yes, we have.
But guys, that spring has sprung, and we are now moving on to next week and finding out what Jason will win next
Jeez.
as we take a ride on the.
The Devil's Wheel.
All right, welcome back, and for our Devil's Wheel portion of events, we each take 3 movies.
A rigged wheel. Say it correctly.
Did we what? Well,
The rigged wheel.
the rigged wheel for
The-
Jason. Really, Kirk and I just put a couple movies on. It just lands on something Jason has. There is one spot on the Devil's Wheel that's called the Devil's Pick, and if it lands on that, none of us win, and we go to a random generator to find a movie we've never seen before, and whatever that lands on, we have to watch. So there's 10 total slots on here. But Jason, before
we get to Jason, let's tell him what the score is because it's so earth shattering. It's 3-0. So this, we're doing a fantasy football theme to a 2024, and we're really ramping up the competition between who gets their movies picked, and it's 3.
Well, we're ramping up who comes
0.
in second place, and right now we are tied, Kirk.
I'm just interested to see if I can get a movie on there. Who knows?
I don't know. Jason is up 3.
Maybe it'll be the devil.
3-0, which
the
means
Devil's going to probably beat us. Yes.
Jason already has the bonus slot for February, already locked down.
Yep.
But it is what it is.
Not quite February yet.
He doesn't get it today though, so we have a shot, Kirk. It's a
We do.
slim shot.
Doesn't help us next month, but it makes us feel a little better.
I redid the wheel, so it's in random places again. I changed that up, but. Jay, before we can
Tell us
spin
the
the
movies
wheel,
we're
we
gonna
need to
watch.
know what's on the wheel. Kirk and I really don't even need to talk because it's really irrelevant. But Jay, what did you put on the wheel this week? Because you had to at least change one.
Yeah, so I kept Chud from 1984 and the movie that I have yet to see, Street Trash from 1987. Ironically, I stayed out of the 1980s on the movie I brought in and actually went with a 2022 film this week, and I put on X.
Uh-oh.
X.
Oh, X. Okay.
This is
With,
this is interesting.
Maxine coming around the corner in a
Yep,
few months.
That's what I figured. Why not?
This is an interesting one. Kirk, tell us about your Dusty movies.
All I know is him putting a 2020 movie. I'm going to put my money on X right now. Just, if the odds makers, the 49ers came back last night, he's got too much luck going on. All right, so I got Death Note for 2017. I got The Ninth Gate from 1999, and then The Empty Man. This is the movie I haven't seen from 2020.
And my 3 movies are staying the same. It's really out of spite at this moment in time.
Yeah, I almost
but
feel like I
I'm
can't
keeping
change stuff.
PG Psycho Gorman on there. I think it's 2022. I have no clue at this point in time. Strangers Pray at Night, because we got a new one coming out shortly. So looking for that. I think that's from 2019, 2018, somewhere in there. And then the movie I've never seen, still can't believe it, 13 Ghosts. At this rate, I will also never see it. So
No.
all that's
Jason
left
to
to
put
do
it on.
is spin the
I
wheel,
won't.
which is happening right now. Let's find out which one of Jason's movies will win today.
NDX. Just go ahead-
I
go
think
ahead
if
and
I
announce
win
that.
this and go 4-0 in January, I should get 2 spots on the wheel. I'm just throwing that out there.
I
No,
will
we
tell
need
you,
we need a
it came
chance.
a click. Oh, well, I thought it was landing on Street Trash. It did not land on Street Trash. I did not win either,
That's
but
good.
Kirk,
The Ninth Gate. All right.
the Ninth
Cool.
Gate. I know Johnny Depp's in it, but
Johnny Depp is in this. Have you seen this, Jason? The Ninth Gate.
I have not, so I'm actually looking forward to this.
I've never seen
Okay.
this before either. What year is that from?
1999.
1999. That's why Jason has never seen it. It's in between power dynamics for him. But
You're saying we're number one? Is that what you're saying?
No, this is
Jason?
just my middle
Number
finger.
one? Oh, okay. I thought you were saying we're number one.
so we will reconvene. First off, I'm just in shock right now. I literally thought it was landing on Street Trash. I'm like, get the fuck out of
So
here.
that means
But
Mike's the ultimate loser.
I am now the ultimate loser
Yes.
currently.
Yes.
But we
It
will
is 3-1-0.
we will
3-1-0-0. You're tied with the devil, so you're doing pretty well.
Well, listen, me and the devil, we're just chilling. The devil's wheel
Yes.
always evens out. But
It is.
is Kirk going to go on a streak now? Is Jason going on a losing streak? Is Jason just going to win next week? Who fucking knows? Odds are
He's got the-
I'm
he's got
not
the
winning
better
anything.
odds.
So he does have better
Jason's
odds
got the
next week.
slightly better odds for all of February, so he could take a commanding lead in this whole thing.
He
so
could,
we're really
and
against
if
that.
he takes a commanding lead in February, he's going to get it in March as well. Then, so
can't have that.
we'll see what happens. But we're going to reconvene, same bat time, same bat channel, and review 1999's The Ninth Gate. There's a lot of nines in there, and
1999's The
figure
Ninth Gate.
out what kind of horror movie this is. So, listen. That's our show for this week. Appreciate everybody as always, whether it's one episode or all 149, rocking with us. And we're always looking for movies to throw on the wheel. So if you got something, we like to put some listener picks on there. We do a lot of different part in the tear segments. So, throw us some ideas for, our Is It Horror segment questions. If you've watched something or you're excited about something for coming soon, let us know. We'll put that on here as well. But we're always looking for as much interaction as possible. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, how do I interact with you guys? Guess what? I got the answers for that as well. So 3 main ways. One is our Instagram at MVJ Horror. You can go on there and talk to us. We have a wonderful YouTube channel where you can kind of catch up on some different things, watch some videos. Kirk works really hard on that. The easiest way is we have an MVJ Horror Facebook group. And we're always commenting and talking with people on that. So
Absolutely.
those are our that's how we do business.
That's how we get it done.
That's how we do it. I don't know what Jason's doing with his hands. He's
Is that a
making
gate?
weird.
Is that a ninth gate?
Oh, you should have had
I
like
was
one.
going to
Show you what
give
the
you
gate
your
looks like.
I'm trying to help you out with your
Now it's a ninth
with your-
gate.
with
You
your exit.
gotta have.
No,
Yeah,
I was
one
going to
more
help
finger.
you with your your thing that you do at the end.
My thing.
outro?
You want me to
Yeah.
walk through like a ninth gate on the way to next week? I don't know.
You could say the gate is now open.